Hi guys and welcome back. If you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe in order to help support the channel. Within this video, I'm going to break down the phase 1 of ACL rehab. So the main goals that you should be aiming for, and then I'm going to break down and show you a cluster of exercises that you can do in order to help reach and attain those goals. As soon as you reach the goals, you're then ready to move on to phase 2. The key aims of the first phase is to reduce the amount of swelling that you've got at the knee, to improve your extension, so you want to get the knee as straight as possible, to work on the flexion, so you want to be able to start bending the knee up to 100 degrees. And lastly, to get the quads firing. As you'll find straight after surgery, the main muscles of the knee will fall asleep and will need a little bit of prompting in order to get some activation. It's good to be aware if you've had a patella graft, you don't want to load it with heavy external resistance for 4 weeks after the surgery. Again, with a hamstring graft, you don't want to load it for up to 12 weeks after surgery. So be aware of what sort of graft that you've had and how much you should be loading it. This is because the graft needs a little bit of time to heal, and if you load it too early, it can disrupt the healing process. Also, if you message your consultant and your physio, and just make sure there's no restriction that you should have in place for the rehab. So for example, if you've had a meniscectomy or a repair of the meniscus, depending on what part of the knee it is, you might not want to push too much into that range of motion. So just be aware of what you've had done and what restrictions this means to the movements straight after surgery. I hope this video all makes sense and it's quite easy to follow along, but if you've got any queries or questions or you're unsure of anything, please drop me a comment in the section down below and I'll be more than happy to help out. So the first goal of this rehab stage is to gain full extension, and here I'm just showing you what full extension looks like, and you can either do it in standing or lying down, but either way you want the knee to be completely straight. So the first move that we're going to do in order to get it is to lie flat down and just allow the leg to dangle. This allows gravity to have an effect on the shin and just slowly pull the leg down. I wouldn't do it with any resistance initially, just give it a little bit of time, 20 to 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times a day, and just allow it to slowly increase the amount of extension that you've got. Next up, we're just going to push down on the thigh. You want to make sure that you're not pushing down directly on the front of the knee or the kneecap, as this may be painful with very little benefit. So you want to push just slightly above, push down, and it really helps gain extension in the knee. So this is really important, even if it is slightly painful, as a lack of extension for 3 to 5 degrees can really impact the amount of quad activation and muscle strength that you get later down the line. So here we're just going to tie a knot in the resistance band, just like so, and then what you want to do is chuck it in the door. So here, make sure that it's not going to ping off into your leg, as that's really quite painful. I've done it quite a few times before, and you just want to loop the leg through and pull back. So this is really good as you get a lot of ground reaction force, so you're working the leg functionally, and the muscles are really acting around the leg as well. So as you really push the knee back, then you should be getting a little bit of quad activation. As well, you can start to transfer the weight slightly more over towards the left hand side, so you're standing on your injured leg, and this just means you're working that leg slightly more and getting more comfortable with loading it. This is what 100 degrees of knee flexion looks like, and you want to gain it passively, so it doesn't have to be an active movement. However, the first exercise that we are going to do is active, so you'll probably find that you won't get quite as much range through here. But the reason that we're doing this exercise is that it's really quite good in order to get all of the muscles contracting around the knee. And also you're getting the movement, so it helps to shift any swelling that you've got around the area. So with this, you want to repeat through 10 to 15 times for 2 to 3 sets. And with this exercise, it might be quite sore, so just go as far as you can. So in order to gain a little bit more range, we're just going to use a towel. So with a towel looped around the foot, you just want to pull the foot up towards your bum. If you push out against the towel and then pull it back bit by bit, then it gives you something to concentrate on, and it just means that you'll get that flexion a little bit quicker. So you want to keep pulling with the towel really nice and slowly until you can get your hands around it. Then as soon as you can get the hands around it, you want to pull it up so that you're hugging it towards the chest. And this is just to gain the last few degrees of flexion. So this is a seated passive flexion exercise. If you can get the knee past 90, then you want to elevate yourself up and then try and do it on a plinth or a bar stool, so you can really tuck the shin under and get a little bit more range through the knee. Here I'm just going to do a MET, or a muscular energy technique, in order to gain the range. So you want to kick the leg out and then pull it back, kick the leg out and then pull it back. The next phase is reducing any swelling that you've got in the knee, and a really good way to assess this is with the sweep test, as opposed to messing around with the tape measure. So what you want to do is just slide up the leg 3 times, then swipe down on the outside of the knee. If there's a transfer of fluid over onto the inside of the knee, then it shows that there's still swelling, so you don't want there to be any movement in order to pass on to the next phase. So this device is a cryo cuff, and it constantly pumps cold water around the knee in order to reduce the amount of swelling that you've got. If you've got swelling around the knee, you want to get rid of it as soon as possible, as it inhibits muscle function and also reduces the amount of function that you've got around the knee. We're just going to do patella glides, so you want to hold on to the kneecap and just gently mobilise it side to side, just a few degrees either way. It helps to free up the kneecap, restore movement, and also assist with the amount of muscular contraction that you can get from the quads. Lying with the leg above the heart reduces swelling by assisting the lymphatic system and encourages drainage of any swelling or tissue fluid back to the heart. To make this exercise really effective, you want to grab your phone, type in Joe's Physio, click subscribe, and also the little notification bell on the side. This means that you'll be notified when my next video is released and you're staying up to date with my content. So our last goal is a lag test. So here is a negative lag test. So you can see as I'm lifting up the quad, the shin's not following. Whereas here, the quad is activating, so the shin is lifting up and there is no lag. So I'm going to run through a series of cues in order to gain activation quicker. The first one is you want to sweep the shin down. So the top of the shin you're pushing down and the bottom of the shin you're scooping up. And it's literally like a C scooping motion that you're trying to gain here. And you find that after getting your head around this and repeating through a few times, that it will gently increase the amount of quad activation that you've got. The next cue is sliding the kneecap up towards the hip. So you really want to imagine that you're pulling the kneecap in towards the hip. Next, you want to push the back of the knee down and the heel up in the air. And the combination of these two together should gain significantly more quad activation. So you can see here that my quads are really shaking under the amount of pressure that I'm putting on it. And gaining quad extension is really, really important, as the larger quad muscles work in the last few degrees of quad extension. So it's absolutely essential that you get that movement back. So once you get to grips with that and it's feeling stronger, try and get all of these cues in one to make sure that you get a really strong contraction in the quad. Also here I'm using a foam roller. It's slightly denser, so it's a bit of a harder lever, so it just means that I'm getting a slightly stronger contraction through the quad as well. At the top, if you want to make it harder, you can hold for 10 to 15 seconds. So you can do it in lying, or you can prop yourself up on your elbows. And I'm just going to show you, as you lean further up, it makes the exercise significantly harder. So here you can see by my face that I'm struggling a little bit more. Then as you really close down the angle between your body and the legs, you can see that it makes it significantly harder and you can work up a sweat. So lastly, we're just going to work on an open chain exercise. And a lot of people don't necessarily recommend doing open chain exercises too early on. However, once you've got quad activation, I think that it's really sensible to get the knee used to this movement, but just make sure that you're not adding any external resistance. So you don't want to do a leg extension, for example, as this will put way too much pressure on your new ACL graft. But here, just on the edge of the bed, you just want to straighten the knee and really contract the quad at the end of the movement. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe to help support the channel. If you've got any queries or questions, or you found anything difficult within the video, give us a comment in the section down below and I'll be more than happy to help out. But here's what you're going to do next. I've got phase 2 here and phase 3 of the ACL rehab protocol here. So if you click on both of those, save them to your watch later. So as soon as you've met all the markers in the video here, you've then got them loaded and ready to go as soon as you reach that stage and phase of your rehab. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.